Hello and welcome to Inside Salem. I'm your host, Mike Allen. On this show, we try to go behind the scenes of what you read in the headlines to give you some background information. And to that purpose, we assembled a crew of people who are in the know. We're joined today by former Councilor at Large, Domingo Dominguez.
Thank you, Mike.
Former school committee member, former Councilor at Large and current planning board member, Tom Furey.
Thank you, Mike.
And former Ward 6 City Councilor and very new school committee member, Megan Stott. Welcome all.
Thank you.
So on our things that we're going to be looking at today, we're going to talk about a ferry building, a terminal building they're going to be talking about building, the local sales tax option that's trying to go through the State House, council preliminary okay of the Salem High School, ranked choice voting, and of course, the Salem High School is a big thing, and Salem 400. It's coming up on the 400th anniversary of the founding of Salem, and so that's sort of a big deal. But welcome all. So first thing we'll talk about is the Salem High School funding. The final bid came in sort of at $447.4 million, although I think 0.4 is sort of funny to say because we know it's not going to be in there. And it's going to be, if we can get in there and anywhere near 450, that would be a shock. And the City Council has taken the next step towards the approval. Ultimately, we'll have to go before the voters to override Proposition 2.5 because the cost of this is going to be high enough. Megan, you're new on the school committee. What's the thought process out there for what's happening now?
Yep, so new on the school committee, but I've been on the high school building committee for the past few years. So excited to see that we voted in December to send the application really, which is all the cost and funding requests and the whole project as a whole to the MSPCA. So they're going to review it and vote on it in February. And that will advise us of how much we will be expecting in reimbursement, which will really allow us to give kind of a better number of how much will this cost, which is kind of the popular question that everybody's asking, right? So right now the matters in front of council are the bond, like you said, and then approving the special election. There's actually a committee meeting tonight to really go into in-depth discussion of that. They had the first bond passage at their last meeting. Hopefully the second bond passage will be at their meeting tomorrow, and then it will go to a citywide vote May 5th, so 5/5, another voting day here in Salem. Everybody loves voting in Salem, right? Where it will go to the residents of Salem, the voters, to approve or not approve the debt exclusion, so the tax override.
Okay. So you mentioned MSBA, Massachusetts.
Yeah, so many acronyms.
Massachusetts School Building Association, just for those people who are wondering what that acronym was. It seems to me that if you have a special election for any sort of issue like this, the people who are going to come out and vote on it are the people who want it to go into place. So I just think it's sort of not a true test. I know that's what we're going to do, and that's what other communities do, because this affects a lot of people. I just hope enough people recognize the expense here for this, and recognize what it's going to do to their property taxes and things.
Figured it out. Maybe might be some type of information matter for the general public. You mentioned, former councilor, that it's in front of the finance committee, or which one of the committees in front?
Yep. So right now, tonight is the Administration and Finance Committee, and the presentation that they're going to be providing, along with like an education to the community before the May 5th vote, is how much will this cost, right? What's the final number for your end bill? And we have kind of two scenarios here. You can vote yes or you can vote no. both of them are going to have a cost. The no vote is going to have a much higher cost to the taxpayers than a yes vote. So we're trying to, or the city's trying to figure out how to accurately portray that and, get that message out, because it is a little confusing, right? You think like a totally new building would be more expensive, but the code renovations to get the building up to par, because we don't get reimbursement from the state on that in its entirety, similarly to the new building, it does have an effect. So they're working on a calculator, but we don't know that exact number until the MSBCA approves it in February.
And what percentage are they paying nowadays?
We're
in the
estimating 40 to 44%.
That's what they're paying?
Yeah.
I mean, because we have a lot of schools that were built at 90% that we got reimbursed on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
several schools back
Right.
in the
And there was
20
a
years
chart
ago.
I saw recently of recent projects and how much the reimbursement was. And honestly, it ranges from like 9%, which I think was one of the W towns. Can't think of it right now. To Revere was about 50%. So it really ranges anything in the middle. It all depends on what you're putting in and what the state reimburses for.
Will be
grants
affected by
projects.
the new election on the governor? Say, for example, we have a new governor. That would be considered into actually the payment, no matter who might be the governor?
That's a good question. I know that we were looking, there is concern with what's going on at the federal level. Is that going to affect us? And no, this is all state. I would hope that this project of state school reimbursement for MSBCA has been going on for a long time as governors have come in and out. So, there might be some tweaks to the program, but the program as a whole has always been around for a very long time. So I would hope there would still be some sort of reimbursement, but it's not a federal reimbursement program.
And if you know, the plan is to merge elementary school, middle school with high school at the same point.
So there was a vote on that last year, or maybe a year and a half ago, and that actually had a cost of it was in the $500 million if we built a junior, senior high. So and that was one of the reasons that the school committee did not vote in favor of merging those two, was because just the cost of that would have been really not fiscally responsible when we do have a sturdy middle school, I'll say. The Collins building has good bones and is a good structure.
Which is 3 times as old as the current high school that we're tearing down, by the way.
Yep.
Okay. Tom, you've on the school committee.
30% of the population of Salem is young. And that's 100% of Salem's future.
Okay.
And we're looking at the future. It's a future investment into the city of Salem. Megan has a daughter going through the public school system. I had 5 sons that went through the public school system. Domingo had
7.
children go through the public school system. It's the best investment we can do for the 21st century. We all know that building that we talk about, the old high school, new high school on Wilson Road, was never meant to be. It looked like a factory. It was built as a factory. We put all types of money into it, bond after bond. I served under the Tony Salvo administration on the school committee with Mayor Tony Salvo. We put a brand new roof on it. It didn't always work. I told my sons, wear a hat to school, wear raincoats to school, and they did, because it was pouring in, rain. And I kept saying to Tony Salvo, the mayor, the chairman of the school committee back then, water and electricity don't match. Man, we got to do something about that. It's dangerous for the students. And we put millions of dollars into it. The windows glazed up and so on. That building is not a 21st century building. Children, that's 30% of our population, deserve a high quality 21st century building. And that building that will be built is, what's the composition? Maybe you can tell the listeners what the composition of the building committee that you have served on 2 years. Have done a lot of homework. You got what type of people are involved doing this?
Yeah, we have a great building committee with a lot of people. So we obviously have people from the city representing, so the finance director, we have the sustainability, energy resiliency contacts in there. So the Jenna Ide, who used to be the director of that department and now our current director. We have architects, we have designers, we have a representation from the schools, so the principals from the high school, from the CTE program. So it really is like a broad swath of people providing their insight, and then subcommittees around there. And I will say, like, the new building, it's not anything like crazy with all these unnecessary bells and whistles. It's a solid foundation to move forward to hopefully last 100 years like the middle school has. I wish we could go back into time and see 1976, 50 years ago, and be like, build it solidly and structurally, but there was this kind of window in building time where we just didn't build them solidly. And unfortunately, we've been trying to band-aid it and put lipstick on it and make it work, but it's not working, and our future, our students, our community deserves this new building.
They have this, the vote that will take place in May
Yeah.
5th. It's a special election. Only one thing on the ballot, that issue of
Yeah.
the school, whether it's in front of
Yeah.
the school. So people who vote, history-wise, are people like ourselves, not the young people.
Okay.
We need to get the young people, cross-section people, to vote, because people like myself have children all grown up, grandchildren, say, what do we need to invest? Another brand new school, $450 million. Why? And that we'll have to convince the older people like myself that it's an investment into the future as their children, as they went to public schools, and their children went to public schools, and their grandchildren went to public schools. We have to keep on investing. And that's an investment, better than the stock market, better than cryptocurrency and everything else on the market, is to build a future for our future, 30% of our population, 100% of the future. So it's going to be a very interesting way. I think you've met many times, different times. I think you've had about 25 plus meetings easily.
Yeah, so the building committee has had 25 meetings, but we've been out in the community. Oh, there was a list of all of the events. We have spreadsheets that just goes on and on for the farmers markets, the Salem 400 event. We've been to neighborhood groups, community organizations to present, like Salem Partnership, the Rotary, like just really anybody that wants to hear about the high school building project. It's kind of like a roadshow. They have, things that they can take with us and easels and go and present. I went to the football game, the kickoff football game this year. So really out there in the community to answer those questions, which is a lot of similar questions. What's it going to be like? Is it going to be a junior, senior high? How much is it going to cost? So getting that information out and really sharing for people. It's definitely been a roadshow.
I know the dynamic is very important. I think the investment is worth. I think we need to invest in education in all levels. My little concern, which I think I share with many people in the city of Salem, is together with the big building or new building, do we have programs and we have idea to better the education as a whole, not only the building. The building sounds good, it's good to live in a very nice house, but if the content inside is not worthy, I think that is a major issue that we need to have in mind. So hopefully, and I know how the city deal with, hopefully we have something going on that also going to better the outcome of the result on our children, which are the best. And I agree with Tom. I mean, that investment is for the future. Me, myself, having 7 children go through Salem High School, I cannot see better way to motivate the education in Salem. But I mean, hardly that we need to continue to work in some of the other areas. Better pay for teachers, which I think sometimes they are underpaid, to retain the best quality of the administration, and the curriculum to be more adapted to the new time that we are right now. So I know that we're heading into the right direction, but I hope that building will not be only the new thing that we see in the future. We want to see more better education as a whole. That's that's to me very important.
I love that you're saying that, because in my mind, it's like the building needs to match what's going on in the schools right now, which what's going on inside the schools, the building does not represent it at all. There's so many amazing things that are going on in the schools right now with the CTE programs. We just had a major teacher contract negotiation with the unions last summer, so we definitely needed to pay more, and that was renegotiated. The programs, the quality, they're the top performing of the gateway cities with school testing results. So really like the guts, what's going on inside is improving, and it's so exciting, but there's not, an outside building to match that. So our student, everybody kind of deserves to have both hand in hand. And I think this project and this vote is going to help explain that to the community and get that out, because all of these questions are coming up. So I'm just welcoming everyone, learn about the schools, talk about the students that are in there and the students that are in the programs right now, and everything exciting that's going on there. I really think it's not just, going to be a vote to pay for this new school, but really an opportunity to learn about what's going on in our schools and all of the exciting things, because there are some exciting things.
Okay. Next topic. Talking about building, I guess we got plans for building a terminal where the Salem Ferry is, and we got a grant to do that, and we're on to the next phase of there. Do Do we know where that phase is? Are we, Tom, is that something?
Yeah, architectural drawings are already done, and I think it's going out to bid to build it. And I think hopefully within maybe 2027, it'll be ready. It's going to be exciting to have that. A more enclosed, viable, friendly, family-friendly, customer-oriented situation. If we're going to do anything with the Shetland Park, and that's the biggest development in the city of Salem that will take place, we will need a ferry to go to Shetland Park to use it for Shetland Park. People going back and forth, Boston and Salem and so on there. So that's the future of Salem, is the new frontier. Jack Kennedy called the space the new frontier. But actually, for Salem, the new frontier is the ocean, our ocean. We began with the first couple millionaires that came to Salem, the Derbys and the Crown and Shields, that made Salem what it is today. I think we're back to the ocean, the ferry, for transportation. London's getting into it. Other cities and towns are getting into it. The Cape is getting involved in it. So that's the future. Another option, they're getting away from the car. We all came here by car to this studio here. We need options, and especially with the Shetland Park development, with so many units of over 2,000 units of housing development, we need a different mode of getting in and out, maybe to Boston, Lynn, and so on. So I think that's an exciting part of the new frontier of Salem. I remember Mayor Usovich and Mayor Driscoll being on the front guard, getting the most funds available. And here we have the reality of a family-friendly, customer-oriented facility that will be built high so it won't flood over in the 21st century, that it's going to be architecturally well-designed, family-friendly, and structurally physical, so avoid flooding and climate change.
Okay.
I think it's nice. I believe that we need all type of alternative on the transportation matter that we have in Salem, especially getting new developments. And I think more people mean more traffic. So if we got an avenue that we can ease that way, would be great. So I'm looking forward to see more and learn more about it.
Now, is this building going to make it more likely that we'll have cruise ships coming? Because we always hear about cruise ships.
I don't know about that. I don't have the answer to that. Maybe someone can.
Megan, you know that?
Well, I believe we do have a few already come in and port now. I don't know if it would increase that number, maybe, but it is exciting having, it's the second or third deepest deep water port in the state. So to be able to kind of use that resource that we have, like you said, the new old frontier.
The new old frontier.
I mean, I assume that, once with cruise ships, it's planned out years and years in advance. Mm-hmm. So they have to, so if you say we can take cruise ships now, it's going to be almost like 3 years before they would, if they would even wanted to put a cruise ship. To come here.
Well, like I said, I know that some do stop here, and there are some different kind of levels and types of cruise ships and sizes and things like that. Yeah. I think one of the great things about those is that's zero traffic and a lot of people coming to our shops downtown and hopefully spending money in the restaurants and just using their feet to get around, or perhaps a bus or something in that sense. So it's an exciting project. I think it's exciting to really put the project there to say this is our entrance to the city from water. I know that the wind marshalling yard kind of has some ups and downs with the federal program and what's going on there, so that we're still moving forward with the other projects, I think, is a good sign.
Okay.
When tourists come into the PBDS Museum, I'll say and I work at the PBDS Museum as a security guard, and they come in off the ferry, have a nice day coming in from Boston, come off the ferry, spend a nice day, spend money, tourist money in Salem. And the future of Salem is in tourism, continues to be a foundation for the economic viability of Salem. And they come in and they leave Salem with a friendly way, going back ferry back to Boston and doing multiple things there. So many things going on. Even next year with the soccer tournaments and international soccer tournaments at Foxborough Stadium and so on, it's going to be an exciting time to have tourism come to Salem, whether it's being ferry, this new ferry facility, or ferries, or cruise lines. It takes a lot of research to bring cruise lines in, small cruise lines.
Right. Obviously, we're not talking those
Canada and
those
so
ones
on.
You see that they hold like 20,000 people or whatever.
No Princess Boat Line there.
Yeah.
We don't have the harbor to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck with that then. We'll see. And do we have a cost estimate for what that's going to build? The cost to build this terminal?
I really don't know the cost. I'm not
I
too.
don't know.
Okay.
We do it through grants. It's going to be a grant, I believe so, but I don't know the total.
Okay. Okay. Ranked choice voting. This comes up every once in a while. Myself and Jim Fleming, former sitting with Megan's chair, have been very vehemently opposed to ranked choice voting as sort of the solution in search of a question. But it's coming up again.
We all been through a lot of campaigning and a lot of voting season, and we know how sometimes how difficult it is to get people out to vote and to get people motivated. My concern always has been the education component. In any tool that we use here, sometimes it's short. Doesn't really go through the whole citywide, making sure that everybody get involved. And I think that's a campaign that needs to be addressed. We need to address how can we get more people involved in election time so they can elect who they want. You know, I had nothing against that. The little I know about it, the only thing that I see is a little bit complex. It sometimes got confused. People don't know how to do it, and many people with the one that we have sometimes don't know exactly how to do it 100%. So if that or any other program can be accompanied with a educational component, might work, might not work, but at the end of the day, we want to see more people voting. And I think that that one is not really the more friendly one to people that are used to use the one that we have to motivate them to come out and vote.
And you think changing this to this ranked choice voting would make someone more likely to go out and vote?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be more complex because they have to learn how to do it again.
Okay.
But my point is the educational component needs to be more aggressively, regardless which one we use.
Yeah. Megan?
Yeah, no, totally agree with all of that. Feedback that I've got on specifically ranked choice voting is it can be a little complex and confusing. So you need a good educational campaign really to get out there and explain the process. Whether or not it's going to increase the vote or not increase the vote, I've heard both sides, so I'm not sure. I think there is data to show that it increases. I think one thing in my mind that makes me think it would increase is that it would eliminate primaries or preliminaries here in the city, right? We would just have the election on November 4th. So just one election versus two. And I think that sometimes waters down. People get like election exhaustion, right? You're like, oh, he's voting. Oh, I just voted last month. What do you mean I have to go vote again? So in my mind, that's definitely a positive. But I'm definitely interested in seeing this conversation continue. I think the biggest piece, though, is going to be education and information, which oftentimes can get dropped, and it's not always a piece that is picked up. So that's, I think, going to be key for any sort of success with this, which I do, if there's something that can increase voter turnout, I hope it's successful.
Okay. Tom?
We all ran for public office. All four of us ran for public office.
Yeah.
It's very hard, even on the local level, without a name. A big name, a familiar name, an established name, recognition, trust, factor. And we all had to work very, very hard in the election process. We saw something out of the blue in the New York mayor's election. Something came out of the clear blue sky, this type of voting. We had the police commissioner, Mayor Adams, a former police commissioner with an established name. We had Cuomo, big established name like Kennedy in Massachusetts, Cuomo in New York, big name, a trust factor there. And all of a sudden, the new mayor of New York came out of the wood, came out of the blue. No one knew him. And it was an exciting opportunity for a test of democracy on a national level. Whether it would work on the local level is something else. I think the state legislature didn't give us the go-ahead in the past to do this on the local level. We're asking the state legislature via this process to do this. I don't know whether the state legislature will grant us that situation, but it's an exciting opportunity to get more people, young people to vote, because that's the future of Salem. You get the young people out to vote there, and that's on a local level. Look what happened in New York. It's amazing. It's exciting. Whether you agree with the new mayor or disagree, it's an exciting, fresh new face. Beat an established name, Cuomo. Adams, the police commissioner.
Yeah, okay, but
exciting for New York. It could be exciting for Salem.
I mean, but you take a look at his opponents. You mentioned Adam and Cuomo. I mean, first of all, Cuomo had to resign under a cloud as governor, And Adam, I mean, the city's a mess. And so, I mean, you know, to beat those two is not like the biggest feather in one's hat, I would think, you know. But, I mean, you know, did he win because of ranked choice voting?
And I think a lot of people came out that wouldn't have come out because of ranked choice voting in New York.
Okay.
They set a possibility, a choice, that maybe their vote didn't seem to be counted in the past. They came out for him, and he did his work and did his homework. He was very visible. He went on all the channels and so on.
Topped the
did his
ticket.
homework.
He topped the ticket, so it wasn't like ranked choice. So it
was
didn't
ranked
matter.
choice. Was.
What I'm saying is that he topped the ticket.
Top ticket in the final analysis.
Right. So the thing is this: the ranked choice didn't help him at all. It made no difference. He would have gotten the vote.
I don't think so. No, I think he won because of ranked choice in the final analysis.
Okay, I didn't think that
Primary
was
and the final. There was quite a few in the primary, quite a few in that primary election
right,
in
right.
New York.
And there were
Three
quite a few-
established names. He
and
came
there-
out of the blue.
Right, and there were 4 established names in the
Yes.
in the thing. But again, I don't think the primary was done ranked choice, was it?
Maybe it won.
I didn't think that. Well, no, okay, I'm sorry. I don't know if it did it on ranked choice, but he got the most votes.
Yes, he did.
He got the most first place votes.
Yes.
So had it been
Almost like a ranked choice.
So, but if it wasn't ranked choice, he would have still come out.
Maybe.
Well, he would have.
President Trump jumped in to the race.
Well,
Everybody jumped
assuming
in.
the same
Yeah.
number of voters came
Yeah, I
out,
mean, in
too,
other words,
was
you know, assuming the same number of people voted, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, he topped the ticket. So, so it was somewhat moot in his case. I mean, it knocked out Adams and it knocked out Cuomo out of the Democratic primary, and then we had the guy in the Republican primary, from the Guardian Angels. But again, I don't think ranked choice voting was the factor that got him elected. I mean,
He voted, the old guy normally got in. The old machine got in. Tammany Hall normally would get in.
Yeah.
The old name. And the new mayor, exciting, fresh new face.
Yeah.
A minority.
okay.
Representing the city of Lynn, a very diverse city, challenging. Exciting for him. Maybe it could be exciting for Salem.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard to get in. We all ran.
That's correct.
How hard it is not to have
And
that
I've been less
established land.
successful than the rest of you. So
Well, and I think
I know
the
how
point
hard it is.
is the excitement and getting people to feel like their vote is truly valued, which I think ranked choice voting gives a different story in that regard. That they have more. It's just not one vote for one person. They can actually rank who they want. Like if the top person, and I like that idea, and I think the next generation does as well. And it adds more excitement and willingness and readiness to vote. But there are a lot of steps that need to happen before this can happen in Salem. So the council is requesting the city solicitor to draft a home rule petition. The home rule petition has to go to the state. The state has to approve it, and then it has to come back to council. Council then has to approve that, and it has to go to a ballot. So an election about elections would be in the
But I
works.
feel it's a will in the city body, in the council to vote yes. I think it's more in favor than against. I haven't heard anyone say anything different
Yeah.
than to let go with that way of voting here in Salem. But one thing is that we need to make sure, once again I repeat, that is people know exactly what we're having as a way of voting, and I think it's a great opportunity for the officials to start suggesting and add the educational component to that, so that can help build it up a little bit more and people start voting, exercise their right.
Okay. On to speaking of increased revenue, which we've talked about earlier with the schools and things like that. It's been brought before the State House for local option sales tax, much like we have a local option hotel tax and a local option meals tax. They're talking about expanding that to sales tax as well. It was filed by Representative Cruz at the request of Mayor Pangallo, and we'll see where that goes. But my question is, at one point in time, are we spending enough money? I mean, isn't there, something about living within our means? I just don't understand. It just seems like there's no interest in having anything where you say, okay, this is what we have to spend, and this is how we have to allocate it. You were most recently on the school committee, on the city council. So were you
Yeah,
on
and
there
I
when they
served on administration and finance, like fellow counselors
Yeah.
here. And my perspective was every year it was a pretty lean budget. There were no, big bells and whistles at it. Every year, without any, new projects or increases or new positions, there's always going to be an increase in cost. Utility costs go up. The cost of my heating bill is like tripled compared to last year. Pensions go up, health insurance goes up. All those non-variable costs that you have to pay go up a certain percentage every year, 5 or 6% every year. We can't really raise the budget 5 or 6% every year without, possibly trimming items. So I think that's living within means.
But what about the people who are paying it? Their budgets are also going up,
Yeah.
and then this is an additional increase on them.
Right.
At some point we say, well, we can't do guns and butter. We have to choose guns or butter. It just seems like at some point we must choice has to be made.
It's not an easy way. Every time we had to raise taxes, it's come to a point that who's going to pay for? Who's the one that's going to be having the most heavy part on the equation? One thing that I always keep in mind is, I had a budget in my own house, and sometimes my budget had to go to the limit because of something happened, or because I make a wrong decision based on my ability to do things. But if we know the national or the statewide situation in terms of the city, how things happen, how things going, help us to be ahead of the time, make sure that we be proactive and try to find something before we had into the moment where we had to make that very hard decision in which someone is suffering. So my approach always to that is that let's be more proactive in a way that before we had to sit down and make that decision, we try different other avenues and make sure that I know this how the city government are working on many of the issues, especially in finance. It's hard. It is hard sometimes to not be able to say no, we can know, but who's going to pay the bill, like Megan just mentioned. But at the same token, like I say, we need to make sure that we be very proactive.
Tom?
One of my last acts on the school committee, 6-7 years ago when I was on the school committee, is I brought up the ticket tax again, the ticket tax. And that's
When you were on the city council.
City council, yes, I brought that up.
Yeah.
And just to see where extra revenue would come in, because we could see even back then, revenues were going down and services had to be cut. And one way was the ticket tax, like Walt Disney has, Disney World, Disneyland, and different other theme parks have a tax on people buying a ticket. It would go back to the local cities and towns, like down in Walt Disney World, that particular county down there. So the PBS Museum, the Salem Chamber of Commerce, businesses from the mall throughout the city of Salem came into the city council for a hearing on that situation. It was overwhelmingly disapproved as ineffective, not in the right move for Salem. The PBS Museum would have been impacted by tourism, people dining in at the Atrium Cafe, other restaurants would be affected. The sales tax from what the state gives us the mandate to do would be another jump by the cities and towns. But we see it in the school committee budget year after year cutbacks.
If I could jump in for a moment,
Sure,
Tom.
please.
I was president of the chamber at that time, and I was one of the people who spoke against that ticket tax. And what the problem was this, the main problem was, it was open-ended. And by that I mean, to go from 0 to 4%, which was what Mayor Yusevich was proposing at the time, the city had to jump through hoops to get that 4% in there, and did not succeed. However, the way that it was presented, the way that the regulation the rule would have been, or the law would have been, to go from 4% to 40% would have been like this. And so the stakeholders, the PBS Museum, who spoke very strongly against it, Salem Witch Museum, all these places who spoke very strongly against it are looking at, they weren't looking at the 4% that Mayor Yusevich's proposal. They were looking at every single year they were going to get, now it's 8%, now it's 12%, now it's, so if when you put that forth, if you had said it would be tied to the sales tax, either 50% of the state sales tax or 100% of the state tax, you had a much better chance of having it passed, because probably the Pediatrics Museum would have said, well, we can live with that. Everyone could live with 4%, but they can't live with 40. And that was the problem. It was not a well-crafted bill, Tom, and that's why it got the business community particularly up in arms against it. You notice when the hotel tax went in, which increased the local option hotel tax, went from 6% to 8%, I think it was.
Yes.
You had, for the most part, the hotels were like, well, we don't really like it, but we'll survive. And that's because it was a measured amount. It wasn't something where it could go and be a giant jump or be every year, we don't want to raise the taxes on voters, so we're going to raise it on tourists. And eventually you have no tourists. And so that was the fear, I believe, of the businesses. I mean, there would have been some that were opposed to a half a percent, but most of the businesses, if it was something that they knew there was a ceiling to it, you gave us something with no ceiling, and that was the major problem with that one.
And since that time, since your time and my time trying, even now we see the school committee consolidating schools, closing down the Carlton School, consolidating into the South School, making one brand new, one middle of school concept, the Collins School, where we went to high school in years ago. So we feeling the impact. I think 41 positions were cut in the school committee over the last budget.
Last year was 40 or 50 positions.
We lost some good key positions. One big name that stands out was Cindy Napikowski, the band director, was cut.
Okay.
She had a part-time position.
Okay.
Teaching band, teaching jazz band, and so on. After 38 years in the school system, due to a budget cut, and it's hard seeing a budget cut. It's human beings. You can only cut toilet paper so much. You can only cut paper supply so much. Yeah. So we cut people. I saw in my effect 38 years ago. I helped pick Cindy Napikowski, our music lady, who turned the whole school department around music-wise. She chose all the new people coming in, and it's the pride of the North Shore. She calls it the pride of the North Shore, rightfully. So your daughter's in the band, isn't she? Pride in us. We cut a position.
She was always a part-time position?
No, she was full-time for about
she was full-time, and then
36 years. She was full-time.
And then she retired and continued.
Part-time.
Okay.
So she was cut in that cutting process. There's a human face. You can cut toilet paper.
Right. But again, there's a human face who's paying that bill as well, who is now who can't afford to pay their increase in taxes. So there's another human face on the other side. Yeah. We can trot those people out as well. So there's human faces on both sides. And it's, again, whose money are we talking? Are we talking Cynthia
Napikowski?
Yeah, Napikowski.
Big long name for now.
Yeah. I've always got it wrong, even when I was on the school committee. Or we can take some no-name person who's struggling, who's on a fixed income, and all of a sudden their tax bill goes up even further. And they're looking at saying, wait a second, why is it the schools? Now, when I first went on the school committee, I was told we had 5,000 students in the school system. And when I got off the school committee, there was 4,200. And yet, we went up, for those 4 years I was on the school committee, we went up like 4% a year. And there was only 1 year that we even attempted to stay at 2.5%, which is the Proposition 2.5. And our population was going down. It just, again, there has to be a limit, I think.
Beverly went through a strike. Marblehead went through a strike. Gloucester went through a strike. They're cutting back now, their budget now, within the school year. It's very difficult. It's very difficult for, as you're on the school committee, to cut back, to see the human face. And yes, there's an effect. But education, like I said, 30% of our population in Salem is young. They're the future.
Okay. And again, with a different hat on, I was in front of the school committee, in front of the city council. as a member of the school committee, and we had proposed like a 5% budget increase, and I said, wait a second, we can't afford that. And I put out I put out probably 4% savings. I said just these 4 items that are luxury items. And then, and I was of course voted down and vilified for it, but 2 months later, we had to make the cuts mid-year after we committed money to that, which made it worse because then we had to lay off teachers. If this, we could have cut down, a new computer system. We could have, done something different with the computer system. And I forget what the other ones were. But that was the biggest one. That was like probably 2% of the 4% in items that I laid out. It wasn't like I said, oh, you should lay this out. I said, here are the items we can get right here. 4% right here. That brings it down. And if you cut back, we'll find that 5%. And if you just settle for this 4%, whatever. And of course, the city council said, well, we have no guarantee that is what will be done because we only can choose the final number. We can't pick and choose and do a line item beta.
But looking back, you have no regrets doing that. You tried.
I tried.
You tried.
And again, but it was a type of thing where, we need this for the students, a human face. With those human faces on the other side, and again, this, and I'm sorry to say I was right because we did. We ended up laying off people that we would not have ended up hiring in the first place. So again, as I've said all along and forever on this show, is there has to be a limit to how much money government spends. And they have to have a budget and live within it. And this has been...
We're finding it out at national, state, and local level.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I would say, back then I'm not quite sure what our rating is, but I know now we're fiscally responsible, have an A++ bond rating or whatever. So our books, I think, are probably different than how they were that time. To do a mid-year cut means that you weren't really planning responsibly. That's always scary, and you never want that to happen. Of course, you also don't know what could happen. There could be a catastrophic event. But for the most part, you want to be able to budget out and be fiscally responsible. And I do feel that at least the years that I have seen and really been in depth with the budget, so the past 10 years, it has been fiscally responsible. I don't think we're talking about like steak and champagne. I think we're talking about level set, just keeping the lights on. And, when we say faces, it's like, well, we have police, fire, schools. Like these are all people, faces, services that we need, that the cost is going up. And of course, on the flip side, we have to pay for it. And there is a limit. The limit is the taxes and what the tax rate can be. So there is that sort of limit. Understanding that, of course,
but that limit was forced upon the cities and towns by Proposition 2.5, and again, they put the override mechanism in it. So if the community decided to, override it, which is what we're going to be doing on May 5th, we've yet to have a successful override. I'm not sure if we've even attempted override. We haven't attempted override because it was always considered it would fail. But again, I believe, and as I sort of implied at the beginning, by not having it during the actual election, you're going to get a skewed people of those who really want it to pass, and those people are just saying, "Oh, I really don't want to pay more taxes. Well, I'm not going to go down and vote for this special election." I just think that it should not be done in a special election. It should be done as part of the municipal election. That's one of my things that I say. Okay. Anything further on this topic?
No. So.
Okay. Okay. Salem 400. Again, 400th anniversary of this founding of the city of Salem, and again, it's
the city's been working so long on the former mayor King Driscoll, and now on the Mayor Pengello. I think that they have planned to have a very great celebration, which I think is very well deserved. I think Salem deserves to recognize that we've been here for 400 years, and we generation to generation has been one of the cities that has succeeded and also has advanced in many different ways. So celebration is always good. I am all for, and I think I'm looking forward. I thought I'm going to be one of the city councilors during that year, but I was not, because I want to be in front line just celebrating with my colleagues and everyone who really love Salem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you were part of that monumental vote that we took, the Signature Parks
That's right,
Initiative
yeah.
vote of 2020 or 2021. That was very exciting. So we approved money for the bond for the Signature Park. So the Willows improvements that have happened down at Forest River Park, the new pool house and the new landscaping down there, work being done on the Common. So it's just really exciting to see those actually happen, right? And be,
Absolutely, yeah.
you know, my daughter's at Bertram Field all the time, that improvement there. So very exciting stuff. And seeing the investments put in now in the 400th year that we can then celebrate, the next generation can celebrate in 100 years is very exciting stuff.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just before I just toss it to you, Tom, and I do this every once in a while where I just talk about the history of Salem to an extent. I mean, Salem really was, at one point in time, in effect, the capital of the country. I mean, before it was a country and all. Mm-hmm. And we had the first 3 millionaires of the New World were Salem residents, 2 Derbys and a Crowenshield, and you mentioned their names earlier. Mentioned that earlier, and we were the shipping spot. I mean, more shipping went through Salem than any place else. What worked against us was technology in a way, because ships got bigger and they had a bigger draft, and our harbor was not deep enough, and Boston ended up being the beneficiary of that. But I mean, Salem, really is like one of the founding areas, one of the major spots of the history of this country, which is, for those who live in Salem, I mean, that's just something many of them don't realize, particularly newer people that came in. I mean, they taught this back when I was in high school in civics class, but they don't have civics class anymore as far as I know. And that, just something that, people should realize that, I mean, Salem really was a big deal, having nothing to do with the witch trials, which we are most famous for now, or maybe infamous for. But I mean, the reality was, I mean, Peabody Essex Museum was all about, things that were brought back, from all the travels all over the world, because our sailors were all over the world. Blubber Hollow, which is sort of at the corner of Bridge and Boston Streets, that area there. I mean, I don't know for certain, but I have to believe that that's because there was whaling that was connected to that, and that's where they melted down the blubber and turned it into oil. I mean, we really do have quite an impressive history here. Tom?
And Chestnut Street was the street of millionaires in Salem, Chestnut Street.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful street, Chestnut Street. It's architectural jewel, McIntyre homes, beautiful homes. And the Peabody Essex Museum is like a Sturbridge Village or a Williamsburg. It owns the Crowenshield House, it owns the Bentley House, it owns the Derby House.
Yeah.
You can take tours around the campus of the Peabody Essex Museum. I'm a security guard there. It's the epicenter of cultural and historical center of Salem. That it was the center of tourism, trade to China and Japan. Unlike other cities and towns, New Bedford did whaling and Gloucester did fishing and so on. Salem did trade to the Far East. And wherever I went into China and Japan, whenever people come, when I visited China and Japan and different other places, they ask you, where do you live? And I say, Salem, Mass, the rich city.
Right, yeah. I mean, again, that's what we're known for.
Our logo.
Right.
Our foundation is trade to China. The sea, the ocean.
Yeah.
They're amazing. And that's why it's coming back now with the Shetland Park. They want to use that to their advantage. But to our disadvantage, Shetland Park, the land underneath Shetland Park is all landfill. It's not capable of taking all that construction there. I can remember Jim McAllister, who our local historian, would tell stories about elephants coming in from Boston, the Barnum Bailey Circus, coming by train into Salem, going through downtown Salem. The elephants that would get off the train in the old train station in downtown Salem would have to have bandanas around their eyes so they wouldn't look down and feel the ocean below them near Riley Plaza. That was all the South River going up to the Steve's Market and the post office. Yeah. So that's all landfill. So we have to be very careful. That development at Shetland Park, all landfill.
Yeah.
Imagine building 2 hotel, 14 stories high, all these apartments. It was all our past, landfill. When we talked about Boston Boston was an island. Paul Revere coming out of, it was just an island. He had one way in, one way out during the Revolution.
Right.
That's all land there.
Yeah.
So-
Which means the ocean was higher back then than it
Yes.
is now.
Yes.
Not the other way around.
It's coming back to haunt us now.
Okay. So it ebbs and flows.
It does.
Yeah.
Cycles.
Okay.
One thing you mentioned, Mike, that I like to
Sure.
comment a little bit about is the 400, the history. You mentioned the history, which is very interesting, and you're very knowledgeable. One thing that I know that when history comes, sometimes we have to reflect on the history to make sure that we move ahead of time and don't repeat some of the things that we did wrong and do the things that we really think are going to help us to move forward. You mentioned technology, and I think that need to be taken into consideration. We as a city, now that we going to be 400 years old, reflect on that. The world is now in technology. We need to make sure that we move our generation, our children. We're talking about new buildings. Make sure that we be one of the pioneers, or we be in the front line with the new technology, so we can equip our children so the city can really continue to move forward. AI is the future in everywhere, and I haven't heard any. I mean, I'm not too much on everything, but I haven't heard no involvement into AI, which I think we need to make sure that every one of our kids and this generation and the next generation know about the artificial intelligence thing that is going on. We need to make sure that we get into that. So technology, we need to pay attention to technology.
Well, hopefully the new school building will be top notch for that type of thing. So and I assume that it would be. I mean,
and I mean, even now the building doesn't quite match up to it, but they definitely have, CT career technical classes, STEM classes. I know my daughter lives here, is using the 3D printer at school, talking about AI policies within the city as well. So like AI is a tool that can be used multiple ways, and there should be some guidelines around it or guardrails, especially if the municipality is using it or a school system is using it. Students need to learn about these technologies, just like the classes that they teach about, correct online behavior, things like that. So yeah, agreed. I work in technology, so I get it. But also, don't forget the parade. The parade is coming back. I love hearing stories about the Heritage Days parade and all of that. So the parade will come back this summer.
Right, yeah, that was something. There was someone who was running it back years ago, and they ran the whole Heritage Days, thing that we did, and it just, I'm not exactly sure why it sort of fell apart. And the Chamber of Commerce picked up pieces of it. But the parade was too complex because, not being the city, we can't close down streets to have a parade. So we could, so it was really too complex. I mean, even though we oversaw the parade in October, but it was, just to do the two parades. And I was very active in the chamber at that time, and I know that was one of the issues when we took over. And we took over a bunch of different functions. We brought in different things like the Scooper Bowl, which ice cream, I'm not even sure which ones they still do, a clam chowder, thing. And, I think at one point in time they were talking about doing a pizza challenge as well and things like that. But so that was the problem, because the idea of closing down streets for that as a chamber, it would have cost too much money, because we would have had to pay for all the private details and things like that. Where in the past it was a city thing, and then of course it wasn't incurred by a private group. Even though it's a nonprofit, it's not a charity, so you cannot deduct a donation to that. But
it's called Heritage Days, and it was really fun bringing the whole city together. And the parade is a nice way of topping it all off there. So it was exciting to be part of the audience and to be walking the parade. It was really amazing. So hopefully this is a nice, fun way, family friendly, like the first celebration they had at the high school only a short while ago, family friendly. Hopefully the parade will be family friendly. Bring us all together to celebrate 400 years. That's amazing. It's really crown jewel of Salem to be 400 years old. Okay, well, we're pretty much near the end of the show.
and I'm going to toss it to you, Tom, and see if I can get some information from you about the projects happening around. We no longer can park at the Crescent lot, which is the lot next to the MBTA parking garage where they're going to be building. Have they started site work there?
Work like that project is like a left-hand turn on a Titanic. It's not easy. I was on the city council way back then. I was on the SRA as a representative. 8 years ago, we were talking about the Crescent lot.
Yeah.
And finally, we see some visibility of action on the Crescent lot housing. So it's a dynamic time in Salem. I'm on the planning board. I'm very excited. It's some exciting things happening. Sherry's Army Navy store will be developed very soon into housing on top on the corner of Summer and Essex Street.
A quick question on that. Would there still be retail on the first floor?
Yes, retail, maybe a restaurant or retail.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But very little parking. There's no parking.
Right, yeah.
It's all residential on top. Small units, big units, 1 and 2 bedrooms. It was going to be 3. Now it's down to 1 and 2. And very small units, micro units.
Yeah, okay.
So feasible. There'll be a waiting list to get inside. Like the old St. James that'll be opening soon on Bridge Street. There's about 250 people applied for the St. James lot. And the St. Mary's on Hawthorne Boulevard, the old Immaculate Conception School, 254 people applied for that small school facility. So housing is a prime choice for the future of Salem to come to live in, work in, and so on. So it's exciting.
Yeah, but the drawback to those type of projects is that the taxpayers of Salem, it does not increase the tax base of Salem. It's actually a money loser. And that's not Mike Allen talking. That is the Mass Municipal Association talking, where they say it's, and this is from a few years ago, so it could be not accurate at this point, but it's still higher. It was $1.75 in cost for every dollar you collect in taxes on these type of projects like the Bertini's project, because of the nature of the housing there and the nature of the impact they put on the school system and the services. So it's not necessarily smart growth. I mean, a building like Bricks, that condominium building where the district court used to be, where Bernadette's is in the bottom floor of that. Now that's all individual condos. Now those are particularly high-end condos, I believe, but even if they were just moderately priced condos or even low-end condos, each place would be paying significantly more in real estate taxes, in effect paying their own way, as opposed to an apartment building, a subsidized apartment building. So I just think it's a bad deal for the taxpayers of Salem when we put these type of projects in.
It makes a thriving downtown, 24/7, 365-day downtown.
Okay.
So that's going to be a very exciting time. The downtown Salem is going to be year-round. So many good things: the courthouse, the Bricks, the Crescent lot, MBTA station. So exciting times to be living and working in Salem.
Okay. Anything further on Shetland Park?
That's a big question.
Okay.
They'll come not before the school committee, thank goodness. But it's going to affect the children coming into the school system from that area. It's a very high, dense population for the point section, so it's very challenging. I'm opposed to it. I think it's going to be too much for the city of Salem, too much for that neighborhood.
I agree.
Okay.